Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher, world number 3 in points totals over the past 3 seasons. Today we're looking at all the key points for Game Week 31, the upcoming blanks and doubles schedule, my wildcard draft, the best defenders, midfielders and forwards to buy, fixtures to target and more. If you're watching on YouTube and have been enjoying the videos, then consider subscribing. We're aiming for 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's get straight into it, starting with the blanks and doubles schedule. Massive shout out to Ben Crellin for this graphic. To summarise, Game Week 32 is a double game week for Newcastle and Crystal Palace, and Game Week 33 is a double, and Game Week 34 is a blank for Palace, City, Villa and Arsenal. So that is all confirmed, and as you can see, Game Week 36 will also be a double game week for some teams, and Game Week 37 will be a blank game week. If you're wildcarding this week, then you are in the right place. Now, this video isn't just for people who are wildcarding, as I'm also going to discuss the best transfers in this week in general, but this section I'm going to go through my approach to creating my wildcard draft. The key here is that your draft will obviously depend on your budget, but mainly depend on what chips you have left. For example, if you still have your free hit left and you plan to use it in the blank game week 34, then you can plan your wildcard without having to think about that game week. Another example is that if you still have your bench boost and you plan to use it in the double game week 33, then you can plan your wildcard such that you get as many players doubling in 33 as you can. But if you don't have your free hit or you don't have your bench boost, then you have to sort of plan accordingly, because you don't want to get to Game Week 34 and have no one playing because you went all in on the Game Week 33 doublers. You're going to have to strike a nice balance and build up your transfers to handle these blanks and doubles. So let's go through the fixtures and start building our wildcard draft. This section is defenses to target using our fixture difficulty and defensive strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks, with the immediate fixtures given more importance than the later fixtures. We'll be using this analysis to build our wildcard this week, but as I said, also just looking at the best transfers in. First in the rankings are Newcastle. They play Leicester away this week, then double in 32, playing Man United and Palace, both at home, and then they don't blank in Game Week 34. So Newcastle players are a great pickup right now, especially if you don't have a free hit to use in Game Week 34. My favourite pick from them is Schär, but he's more on the expensive side. If budget is an issue, then Dan Burn is a good pickup. It's a close one between him and Livramento, but Dan Burn's data is slightly better than Tino's and his minutes are much more secure. Trippier, another one to consider, but he's the most expensive and his attacking data is actually the worst out of all of them. I'd still put the other 3 ahead of him. Second in the rankings here are Arsenal. They play Everton this week, double in 33, then they blank in 34, so be aware of that. Another thing to keep in mind is that Gabriel is out for the rest of the season, which obviously makes Arsenal defence a lot less appealing. That being said, I still think Raya and Saliba are good picks, and Kiwior is a nice budget replacement too for this fixture run. Third in the rankings are Liverpool. They don't have any doubles coming up, but that shouldn't put you off them completely because the fixtures are there and they're the best defence in the league. Van Dijk, the best pick for me, just his consistency and his set piece threat, followed by Kanate, both great picks in my opinion. Fourth in the rankings are Crystal Palace. They play Brighton at home this game week, then have back-to-back doubles in Game Week 32 and 33. Now, the fixtures aren't exactly amazing from a defensive perspective, but that becomes a lot less of a concern when they play 4 games in 2 game weeks, and Munoz is such an attacking threat that even without the clean sheets, you expect him to pick up a few returns here. Fifth in the rankings are Man City. They're out of the Champions League, out of the League Cup. They only have the Premier League and the FA Cup to focus on. The fixtures look good. They double in 33, then blank in 34. I think that, along with the fact that they have been improving defensively, I'd say Gvardiol is definitely worth considering. He's very attacking and he plays basically every minute. If you're looking for a Man City defender, he's the one to go for. But if your budget doesn't allow it, then Ruben Diaz is the next best option in terms of minutes. He's probably the most secure City asset after Gvardiol, of course. On to attacks to target over the next 5 game weeks, again with the immediate fixtures having more importance than the later ones. First in the rankings, again, Newcastle. They were top of the defensive rankings, now top of the attacking rankings, and their fixtures are amazing from an attacking perspective. Leicester away, then double, Man United and Palace both at home, then Villa away in 33 and Ipswich at home in 34. Honestly, I think a triple up on Newcastle is the play for people who are wildcarding. It's just about whether you want to go for double attack or double defense. Both viable options. I think Isak is absolutely nailed on as one of those options. Then the other 2 are up for discussion. The attackers I would consider Gordon and Murphy. I really like the look of both of them. They've both been very consistent this season, and I would say Gordon is my preferred pick if price wasn't an issue, but obviously Murphy is cheaper and he's great value. Second in the rankings are Liverpool. Again, they don't have any doubles coming up, but they're the best team in the league. I see people selling Salah as a last-ditch attempt to gain rank. For me, he's the first name on the team sheet every day of the week, but if you're looking for another Liverpool attacker, it gets a little more tricky because there's always rotation in that front line. I'd say my favourite pick is probably Diaz, as his minutes have been really good recently, but all of them come with an element of risk attached. Third in the rankings are Crystal Palace. Like we saw in the last section, they play Brighton at home this game week, then have back-to-back doubles in 32 and 33. Again, not the best fixtures necessarily, but again, 4 games in 2 game weeks, there's just so much upside there. The 3 attackers to consider are Mateta, Eze and Sarr. For me, Sarr is actually my favourite pick based off his data and his form. Then it's a close one between Eze and Mateta, but I just edge it in Mateta's favour based off his data this season. Fourth in the rankings are Chelsea, followed by Spurs in 5th. As I'm wildcarding, I'm not particularly interested in their attacks as they have no doubles coming up. However, it makes sense to hold on to your Chelsea and Spurs attackers until 32 if you're not wildcarding, because the next 2 fixtures are great for both teams. That goes for Palmer, Neto, Nkunku, Son, Solanke, Johnson. All fine holds over the next 2 game weeks, but I wouldn't go buying them up by any means. 6th in the rankings are Man City. They double in 33 and blank in 34. The attackers I'd be looking at are Marmoush and Savinho. Marmoush has become a very popular pick with Haaland out, and rightfully so. He's playing out of position as a striker for one of the best attacks in the league, so he is a great pick. And then Savinho, a bit of a riskier one. He's definitely a differential, only 3% owned at the time of recording. So if you're chasing rank in your mini league or overall, I think he's a good shout this game week. 7th in the rankings are Arsenal. Saka is back with a bang. He scored within 5 minutes of coming on against Fulham. What a player. He's definitely back on the menu alongside his teammates Martinelli, who gave him the assist, and Marino, who scored the first goal while playing striker in Havertz's absence. I think the Arsenal triple up on Wildcard 30 was always going to be double defence and Saka in attack, but with Gabriel out for the rest of the season, I can see double Arsenal attack coming into play here. If I had to go for one next to Saka, between Martinelli and Marino, I'd have to go for Marino myself, as he's playing up top out of position. On to the stats review, where we analyse the best performing players in every position statistically and combine that with the fixture difficulty ratings. Players in red are the most expensive and in green are the cheapest. For goalkeepers, we're looking at expected goals conceded per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating. At the top of the plot, we have the Newcastle goalkeepers. Their fixtures are just so good. Henderson for Palace is the next one just below them. Then Raya and Alisson out in the far right as the 2 premium options. I think the 3 keepers I'd be looking at on a wild card are Pope, Henderson and Raya. On to defenders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating multiplied by the team's defensive strength. Newcastle players at the top again, with Schär the most attacking, followed by Dan Burn. Then Arsenal defenders with Gabriel out in front. Unfortunately, he is out, but Saliba is right behind him there. Then Liverpool defenders with Robertson the standout option in terms of attacking data. I'm just not sure he's worth the price tag, as he's been sharing minutes with Tsimikas. For Crystal Palace, Munoz is far out ahead. For Man City, the same can be said with Gvardiol. Below them, the other standouts are Maatsen for Villa, Cucurella for Chelsea, Estupiñán for Brighton, Aït-Nouri for Wolves. They're all putting up good attacking data. On to the midfielders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the attacking fixture difficulty ratings. Newcastle at the top again, with Jacob Murphy actually ahead of Gordon in terms of expected data. The Crystal Palace boys below them with Sarr in front of Eze. The standout options below them are Saka for Arsenal, Son for Spurs, Palmer for Chelsea, Salah for Liverpool, De Bruyne for City and Dango for Bournemouth, although he's not been getting consistent minutes with Evanilson back. Onto the forwards, Isak at the top here. Below him, it's the Crystal Palace attackers. Nketiah actually putting up better expected data than Mateta, but he just doesn't get the same minutes. Below them, it's Welbeck, the standout for Brighton, Jackson for Chelsea, Watkins for Villa, Solanke for Spurs, and Darwin and Gakpo just squeezing into the top right quadrant here. Also worth considering are Evanilson, Beto and Wissa. The data is there, but the fixtures really aren't there, unfortunately. So with all that taken into account, let's build a wildcard draft. I'm going to show you the players that are absolutely locked in first, starting with Raya in nets. He plays for one of the best defenses in the league. The fixtures are great and he has a double game week in 33. What is not to like there? Next to him, it's between Areola and Verbruggen, and this all comes down to whether you're bench boosting in Game Week 32 or 33, because Verbruggen plays Leicester at home in 32 and Areola plays Southampton at home in 33. In the defence, Gvardiol is locked into this team. I want a Man City defender and he's the best option from them. Konate is the next defender locked in. He's not a popular pick, but I think he's great value for a Liverpool defender. Best defence in the league. They don't have any doubles coming up, but the fixtures are good. He is locked in. In terms of defenders, those are the only two locks for me. A few notable omissions there, but I will come back to that. Let's move on to the midfield. The first player locked in is Mo Salah. He's honestly the first player locked into the whole team, never mind just the midfield. Next to him is another lock into this team, and that is Bukayo Saka. He's back from injury, main man for Arsenal, and hopefully he'll be feeding this man some chances. Merino is the other player locked into this team, and he finishes off the Arsenal triple up, which I guess I'll touch on now. It means I'm not doubling up on Arsenal defence. I just think that with Gabriel out, they won't be the same defence, and he has been their best defender all season and probably one of the best defenders in the league behind Van Dijk. That's just too big of a concern for me, too big of a loss for Arsenal defence, and I just think that alongside that, Merino playing up top out of position as a striker is just too good of an upside to ignore. So those two things combined, Gabriel being out and Merino playing up top, I think the position is his to lose. Famous last words, but I'm going for the double Arsenal attack over defence. The next player locked into this team is Sarr. They've got the double-double in 32 and 33. His data is great and he can be a little streaky at times, but at his price, with his data and these fixtures, he is a lock in for me. Moving on to the forwards, Isak, Mateta and Marmoush all locked in. They've all got great fixtures, good form. I think 99% of wildcarders will have these front three, and rightfully so. So let's look at these empty slots, and to be honest, a lot of it does depend on your budget. Starting off with the defenders, one of these slots is a Newcastle defender, whether it's Schär or Burn, depending on your budget. I want a Newcastle defender for their double in Game Week 32. The other two defender slots up for discussion. As you can see, Munoz is not locked into my team, and I suppose I'll discuss that now because he's basically in everyone else's wild card. I know he's got back-to-back doubles, but those four fixtures are Man City away, Newcastle away, Bournemouth at home, and Arsenal away. I don't see any clean sheets in any of those games personally. Maybe the Bournemouth at home fixture, but we all know they can score. I know Munoz can get an attack and return, but I'm just backing clean sheets from other teams in this fixture run personally. But I have put Munoz in there as an option if you want him in your defence. The other players I've put in are Van Dijk for the Liverpool defensive double up, Ruben Diaz for the Man City defensive double up, Milenkovic to have a Forest defender for their likely upcoming double in 36. So those are the defender options. And then in this midfield slot, there's so many options you can go for. I think for this team, a Newcastle midfielder makes sense. That's Gordon or Murphy, depending on your budget. But if you've already doubled up on Newcastle attack, you can also go for the likes of Elanga or Gibbs-White, Savinho, Rashford or Rodgers, Eze for a Crystal Palace attack and double up, and also a Liverpool attacker in Jota or Luis Diaz. I like all those picks for this spot. It'll just depend on your budget and if you have a double up Newcastle defence, if you already have triple Palace. And now I'm going to show you my favourite combination of these options and how my wildcard is currently looking. This is the draft that I've got currently. Verbruggen is the second keeper. I've gone for double Liverpool defence and double City defence. Burn is my Newcastle defender and Murphy is my Newcastle midfielder. As you can see, I don't have Munoz. I've already explained this, but another layer to this decision is I have double Newcastle attack and I hate when my defenders play my attackers. In a lot of cases, it's just unavoidable, but it just adds another reason to go without Munoz for me. And this line of reasoning also explains why I haven't gone double Newcastle defence, because I've got double Crystal Palace attack and I don't want them coming up against each other. Yes, I still have Dan Burn against Sarr and Mateta in 32, but you win some, you lose some. This squad has got 0.8 million in the bank with my team value, so hopefully you can afford this. If not, then I think Ruben Diaz is the one to make way, maybe for Nico Williams, he's a good option. Otherwise, there's a lot you can do with that extra cash, but I like this general structure and I'll show you why it works for me now. With this team, this is how I would line up in Game Week 31. I'm happy to bench Merino against Everton. Kanate and Diaz on the bench isn't ideal, but we're preparing to bench boost in 32, and this looks really strong. All 7 defenders have home games. In fact, the whole team has home fixtures, except when Palace play at Newcastle. Obviously, this means I don't get to bench boost in 33, which was my plan initially, and it's probably the optimal play in terms of trying to get as many players doubling as you can, and then bench boosting in 33. But I already have triple Arsenal, triple City, and double Palace, so I'd be trying to get in either another Palace player or Aston Villa players, and I'm not really sure I like their fixtures for the double, so the plan instead in 33 would be to triple captain Saka in this fixture against Palace at home and Ipswich away, if he's fit of course, which would be really nice I think. So that's the plan I've got so far. Absolutely nothing set in stone. I'm sure I'll have another 10 drafts done up before the deadline, so if you want to see what I end up going for, then tune into my deadline stream 1 hour before the deadline at 10 AM UK time this Saturday. That's all for today folks. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and rate 5 stars on audio. We're aiming for 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so join the community if you have been enjoying the videos. Until next time guys, have a good one.